Hello everyone, today is 25th of October, Friday, so first of all let me wish you a wonderful day and a great upcoming weekend. Now it's 9 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. If no technical issues, I'll publish second news update with all the additional news that will be reported by Russian media in the evening on my Patreon and Boosty pages. And if you are looking for more news from Russia, you're more than welcome to join our communities on Patreon and Boosty and to become a Patreon basically for this project. Links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That's being said, let's go through some news and there are quite a lot of it. So this update may be a little longer, but hopefully you will find it interesting. And first of all, dear friends, let's summarize BRICS, Kazan BRICS summit. And no one probably do it better than legendary foreign minister of India, Jaishankar, who stated that BRICS is a statement of changing world order. Which is actually factual. I mean, it is what it is. So, Indian Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar has described BRICS as a statement of the changing world order, which is no longer dominated by the developed countries of the global north. Speaking at the outreach season of the BRICS summit on Thursday, he emphasized the need to expand platforms that promote multipolarity in order to provide the nations of global south with more tools for development. This economic, political, and cultural rebalancing has now reached a point where we can contemplate real multipolarity. The BRICS itself is a statement of how profoundly the old order is changing, Jaishankar said, and hardly anyone can disagree with him. BRICS is definitely one of the foundational stones for emerging multipolar world, which hopefully will be um, more juster for all of humanity, and they're much more useful, or how should I say, um, beneficial for all their peoples than all the countries in this world, not just for selected ones, as it was the case when Western domination was absolutely unchallenged. Also, some experts, dear friends, are comparing BRICS with the and BRICS summit, Kazan BRICS summit, with the Bretton Woods. They are saying that this summit was a Bretton Woods of 21st century, which is, if true, means that BRICS is reshaping not just their political or geopolitical landscape, but also financial landscape of this world. Because Bretton Woods is famous for what? One of their points is that during that Bretton Woods conference, it was 1944, isn't it? Uh, Basically, financial system at the time get rid of golden standard, and there are some experts are arguing that that was a great mistake. I'm not going to say that BRICS is going back to that golden standard. Standard, I don't know, but the financial system of this world clearly will be reshaped in a better way. Hopefully, that will benefit entire world, not just selected ones. And as far as I understand, even though there was expectations that BRICS will come out with its currency, which will automatically become a world's reserve currency. Right now, as far as I understand, the focus of the BRICS member states are on further promoting uh, cross-border trade between the BRICS member states and the partner states in national currencies. And maybe this is the future that world is heading, or world should move towards. And maybe it will be not just one currency as a world reserve currency that will challenge domination of their US dollar, but national currencies of the world will take their own share on a global financial market. Who knows? Who knows? But anyways, Jai Shankar is absolutely correct. BRICS is a statement of changing world order. Yesterday, as I already mentioned, there was an outreach season of the BRICS summit, BRICS Plus, and significant statements were made during that summit, during that gathering, including creation of new feature in the BRICS, which is a partner states, which is a partner states. Earlier, Foreign Minister of Iran stated that in BRICS summit there was not a main topic of further enlargement of this organization. So expectations that some new members, some new countries may join BRICS was a mistaken one. As I reported earlier many times, I also was skeptical that new members will join BRICS, but this new feature was created some sort of steps before join BRICS will be implemented. And there we have a list, by the way, we have a list of the countries that received the status of the partner state. One of them, Belarus, and Lukashenko, president of Belarus, Lukashenko himself stated about it yesterday that his country received a BRICS partner status, and it's not just Belarus. So, following the BRICS summit in Kazan, 13 countries have been granted the status of partner states within an association. This was reported by Russian journalist Vladimir Selydovo on his Telegram channel. The new BRICS partners include Turkey, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Algeria, Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, Thailand, Uganda, and Vietnam. This is the list of the partner states. Of course, another 2 dozen of countries are queuing in to join the BRICS. Although, it will take some time, I guess, before all the necessary requirements will be fulfilled by those countries, and eventually they will join this organization. First, they will receive probably partner status, and then they will join their organization. Also, dear friends, yesterday at evening local time, Russian president had their final press conference when he basically summarized a BRICS summit and also answer to the questions of journalists from all around the world. I shared their video on my Telegram channel of that press conference, and you can see in this video, dear friends, how many journalists were presented. Hundreds, hundreds of journalists from all around the world, including Western states, by the way. Russian journalists are not allowed to work freely in the collective West countries, in majority of collective West countries, but Western journalists are free to work in Russia, and they were quite active during that press conference. Russian president made quite a number of significant statements, and let's go through some of it. The BRICS summit in Kazan has successfully concluded their new BRICS members so that their most important thing in the organization is a mutual respect, Putin said. And the new members, he meant countries that joined BRICS earlier, Iran, United Arab Emirates, and some others. They clearly saw clearly saw that relationships in this organization based not on the domination of one center or another, but on bilateral respect when leaders of the countries are listening to each other and taking in account interests of each other. And this is clearly a way to go forward. Also, Russian president emphasized that 35 countries and 6 international organizations participated in the BRICS summit, which is obviously is, also Russian president was asked about many topics, including Ukrainian crisis, and during the this Q&A, basically, he stated that losses of the Kyiv regime in the Kursk salient area are now 26,000 military personnel, which is obviously huge losses. He also stated that in Kursk salient some 2,000 military personnel of the Kyiv regime is encircled right now, and the Russian troops are conducting operation to neutralize this grouping of forces. During this conference, Putin also called for UN for reforms. Russian position. Moscow is in support of new members becoming a permanent member of the Security Council, which makes all the sense. Obviously, India have to be permanent member of the Security Council, undoubtedly. South Africa have to be permanent member of the Security Council. I mean, I cannot understand why these countries are not among the permanent members of the UN Security Council already, isn't it? Brazil, by the way, obviously have to be member of the Security Council. All right. Although I guess Western ruling class they are against it because right now they feel like they have free votes in Security Council, US, UK, France. And if new countries will join in, like India, Brazil, South Africa, I guess Western ruling class has fear that they're gonna lose whatever control they have over their UN. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's exactly what is going to happen, and that will be beneficial for this world because it's not just when Western ruling class has a dominance over there, not just UN but UN institutions. Anyways, Russian president also stated that BRICS is not working yet on any alternatives to the SWIFT system, which is a quite interesting statement. But same time, I think some serious work is done in among BRICS between BRICS member states to further enhance their bilateral trade, and therefore, because there are many countries are experiencing pressure from the collective West, who is in control of SWIFT and their financial and the banking system, basically Western one. Obviously, I mean, hardly anyone can argue that it is extremely necessary and important to develop alternative financial and the banking system that will allow countries worldwide to trade without being afraid that Washington or London or Brussels gonna sanction them because they don't like some of the policies of countries or independent of these countries, right? So even though right now we should not expect any announcements that alternative system to the SWIFT was created by BRICS, I believe, you know, after some time, alternative financial and the banking system will become reality. I had high hopes that we will hear some strong statements on this matter during the Kazan summit. It did not necessarily happen. There were some interesting statements, especially when it comes to trade between the BRICS member states and the partner states in national currencies, which is also big, by the way. In some cases, Russia has a trade with their partner states in national currencies that are reaching levels of 90-95%, right? So dollar, euro, or other toxic currencies of the collective West are already been eliminated from the trade, big time. But this is clearly not enough. This is clearly not enough. Many countries are experiencing difficulties when it comes to transactions because they are blocked by SWIFT. For example, Russia is blocked by SWIFT, Iran is blocked by SWIFT, and any country in this world can be blocked from Western financial and the banking system at any time. So therefore, we should expect some serious developments in terms of this creation of alternative financial and the banking system. RT is reporting that Russian president also stated that West's belief that it can defeat Russia is a mere illusion. The West is using Ukraine to threaten Russia's security while believing in their illusion that it can inflict a strategic defeat on Moscow. Russia's President Vladimir Putin stated, according to Putin, the West's unlawful unilateral sanctions and their interference in the affairs of their other countries under the pretense of concern for democracy and human rights are actively undermining regional and global strategic stability, as well as encouraging interstate strife, which is correct. Hardly anyone can argue with that. And of course, if anybody among Western ruling classes still thinks that they can defeat Russia, I mean, they are lunatics, by the way. Russian president was more diplomatic. I'm not. Anybody who thinks that they can defeat Russia are just psychopaths, lunatics, by the way, stupid. They are just stupid. That's it. Also, dear friends, well, uh, of course, BRICS summit was and is one of the main topics in the media, obviously, and it is impossible to share all the statements, all their decision-making process in one news update. That's why Telegram channel is very helpful. I'm sharing quite a lot of news there, uh, as well as in my second updates on Patreon and Boosty. But now in this update, I have to continue with some other news, and let's talk about situation in the zone of special military operation. And first of all, let me give you information that Selydovo, by the way, Selydovo is almost under full Russian control. Yesterday, all day, we were receiving information about retreat. In some cases, absolutely chaotic retreat of the Kiev regime's troops from Selydovo. And according to latest reports that I see, majority of the area, Selydovo area, is under Russian control, including central parts, of course, and the Kiev regime's formations are holding to their positions just in most northern and most western outskirts of their city. I guess before end of this week, today, tomorrow, day after, Selydovo will become under full Russian control, and also Russian troops are advancing in Gornyak Kurachovka agglomeration area, and we have a report that entire battalion of the Kiev regime's forces retreated without orders, so basically ran away from Gornyak, even though they were threatened by their own command that they will be shot at while they were retreating. But they still did not listen to all the warnings from their own commanding officers, by the way. They retreat anyway, run away, and then refused to go back to Selydovo. They were ordered to go back to Selydovo again, and they said, sorry, Gornyak, by the way, Gornyak. And they refused. They said no. Let's translate this news, dear friends, for a little more detail. I guess before end of this week, Gornyak most likely also will be fully liberated by Russian forces, and well, uh, Russian troops advanced in Gornyak due to retreat of a few units, which left their positions under the threat of encirclement and without reinforcement, according to the Ukrainian media, and this is reported even in Kiev regime's propaganda outlets, with reference to the reports of relatives of the Ukrainian military. Their 210th separate battalion of the 120th Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine find itself in operational encirclement in Gornyak after the neighboring 154th Battalion left the positions under pressure from the Russian troops. The unit suffered their heavy losses. At the same time, the commander promised reinforcement, but in practice they never arrived. The sources say, as a result, 210th Battalion decided to withdraw from their encirclement and left the positions for which the soldiers were threatened with execution. Later, they received order to return to Gornyak, but most refused to comply with it due to moral and their psychological exhaustion, physical and psychological exhaustion. So that's what is happening, by the way. Even under the threat of execution, units of the Kiev regime are retreating now because they just can no longer hold on to positions. They are exhausted. They are exhausted. They don't want to fight. They want this proxy war against Russia, in which citizens of Ukraine are sacrificed in unbelievable numbers. And well, maybe it will be better for these troops to not just withdraw, but to take up arms and march on Kiev to end that Western occupying regime there, really. And who knows, maybe that will happen. Maybe that will happen sometime in the future. Anyways, let's continue. As I said, dear friends, I expect before end of this week, Selydovo and Gornyak to become under full Russian control, possibly some other settlements also, and in upcoming weeks, most likely Kurachovka, Kurachovo, Chisovyar and some relatively small settlements will be fully liberated by Russian troops just in next couple of weeks max. And Russian progress obviously continues on the line of contact. And I already said that Russian president mentioned that grouping of Kiev regime forces, about 2,000 military personnel, is encircled in the Kursk salient area. And this is the approximate area, by the way, that Russian president were talking about. This is Kamenная direction on the Kursk salient. And obviously, those encircled troops gonna try to break through their encirclement. They are trying, but unsuccessfully. And probably that is the reason many of them are realizing that they have just two options: die there or lay down arms and surrender. And therefore, according to some reports, about 400 to 500 military personnel of Kiev regime's forces in Kursk salient area already made such a decision and surrendered, although this is officially not yet confirmed information. This is information that some independent sources are reporting about. So obviously we need some clarification from of state institutions, and maybe it will come. today or tomorrow, but numbers are huge, by the way. Putin said 2,000 grouping of forces are encircled, and also some independent are reporting that 4,500 militaries of the Kiev regime already laid down arms and surrender. Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, stated that a country that is in military conflict cannot become a member of NATO. This was an answer to criticism of Germany that Berlin is uh, against Ukraine to join their alliance. Well, Scholz was basically forced to say some very elementary stuff because according to NATO's foundational documents, countries that have some territorial disputes, countries that are engaged in a military conflict cannot join NATO until these foundational documents of alliance itself is not changed. Then it is obvious that Ukraine cannot join this alliance, right? That's why I was saying forever now that there is no circumstances in which Ukraine, as we know it, will join their alliance. Some parts of Ukraine eventually will, Western Ukraine, because those territories, I'm quite sure about it, that those territories will be reclaimed by Poland, Hungary, and Romania uh, after some time. But rest of this former Soviet republic will be under Russian control once this conflict will end, directly or indirectly, but that's how it's going to be, right? And it's not just Germany that is opposing, according to reports, Ukraine to join NATO. 7 NATO members are opposed Ukraine's membership, and these countries are Germany, US, Slovakia, Hungary, uh, Belgium, I believe. I shared their information about it on my Telegram yesterday. Let me find it. Just a sec, dear friends. As you can see, I share dozens of news on daily basis, right? So that's it. That's the news. A number of NATO countries are not ready to invite Ukraine to their alliance due to fears of direct conflict with Russia, according to article in Politico. Germany, the United States, Belgium, Slovenia, Spain, Hungary, and Slovakia are against Ukraine's membership, their publication notes. And what is most important, NATO's foundational documents uh, are making it impossible for Kiev regime to join NATO. As long as the country is in military conflict or has some uh, territorial dispute, it cannot join NATO according to currently active foundational documents of the NATO. This charter should be closed long time ago, by the way, of Ukraine becoming NATO member, but for whatever reason, some Western propaganda outlets, some Western so-called politicians constantly are talking about it, which does not make no sense, but tell this to them. Also, dear friends, we have this news that Poland is expelling 10 members of the Russian General Consulate in Poznan city, including 3 diplomats among them, and representative of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, stated that Polish diplomats in Russia should get ready to go back to their countries. They had a good time in Russia. Uh, they live, you know, they have a good rest, but it is time to pack the box and go home. Zakharov was somewhat ironic, but that's how Moscow gonna respond, isn't it? Poland is expelling Russian diplomats. Moscow will react the same way, and well, Warsaw can continue until there is no diplomats left of each other in the countries. If that's what Warsaw's goal is, then carry on same way. Expel all Russian diplomats. Russia will do the same, and that's gonna be it, right? In this attempt to every day demonstrate how Russophobic they are, some governments of the collective West countries are now acting as a, I don't know, man. It's not just over the top, but it's total madness what they are doing. Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that Russian parliament ratifies security treaty with North Korea. Russian State Duma, the lower chamber of the parliament, has ratified the bilateral treaty with North Korea. President Vladimir Putin signed during his visit to Pyongyang in June and submitted to the chamber earlier this month. So this document is in force now, which is definitely big deal. If especially because according to this treaty, Russia and North Korea are obligating themselves to provide their military aid, military assistance in case of foreign aggression. And well, this treaty between the two countries definitely enhances security of their North Korea. If Washington, NATO, other NATO member states, and Seoul, capital of South Korea, were planning to provoke some conflict on the peninsula, on Korean peninsula, and conduct some military operations against North Korea, well, they will no longer be able to do so. They can try, but if they don't want to enter in a direct full-scale war with Russia, they should think about it hard before any steps will be made. And dear friends, this is also important because I believe something similar is in works between Moscow and Iran. And if such agreement will be signed, I believe it will bring more security and stability to the Middle East because extremely aggressive states on the world stage like US, UK, Israel will definitely have more reasoning to think hard about attacking Iran if they will know that Iran has an agreement with Russia about bilateral military support in case of foreign aggression, right? So Russian president yesterday or day before stated that this treaty with Iran, a comprehensive cooperation treaty with Iran, is in works in final phase of their work and will be signed shortly. And the president of Iran, Pezeshkian, will visit Russia, especially for that event to sign this immensely important agreement for the two countries, obviously. And dear friends, before I continue, let me notice that a project of mine with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram is completely subscriber funded, completely independent, therefore. And if you like my work, if you want to see further development of this work, of these channels, of this project, please consider to support with a donation through PayPal or Boosty platform, or by subscribing to my Patreon page or page that I have on Boosty also. Links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And obviously, and of course, many thanks to all the members of our community that supported before and continue to support her now. Truly grateful for this unique opportunity to work in this field of news and political commentary. And I'm trying, dear friends, I'm trying to use content that is informative, honest, and informative, by the way. And after all, if you take a look at the landscape of alternative media, how many channels do you know from Russia that are publishing news updates on daily basis? Do you know any except mine? I don't. Uh, I'm talking about alternative media, by the way, independent media. I would like to, to see more channels, more English language channels in this field that are operating with Russia. That would be great, really, because I will try to cooperate with these independent creators. Uh, Maybe we would be able to do some programs together, but unfortunately, even though there are some channels, obviously, that are based in Russia and are working in this field in general, but when it comes to daily updates, daily news updates, that is done, just mine, right? So it is what it is. Then, if you want these channels to continue to exist in this field, if you think me and my channels deserve this, then please consider to support, because without it, obviously, of course, I would not be able to continue this or even think about further developments to transform this tiny project into maybe something bigger. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends. Let's continue with some more news. RIA Novosti is reporting that, according to Times, Israel postponed its strike, its retaliatory strike on Iran, although still promises that even if it will take more time, the strike will inevitably be conducted. And we have also a report from TASS news agency that, according to Iranian officials, Tehran expects that Israel will target Iran before 31st of October, according to some sources of Asharq al-Afsat newspaper. You know what? Let's translate. Let's translate this information for more detail. So Iran believes that the Israeli armed forces will launch a strike on the territory of Islamic Republic in response to the recent Iranian missile attack before October 31. So they expect that before end of this month, Israel will conduct this strike. This was reported by the Asharq al-Afsat newspaper, citing sources. According to these sources, the Iranian side received information according to which the efforts of the regional and international players who tried to pursue Israel to abandon retaliatory measures against Tehran were not crowned with success. There are inter sources of their publication, this newspaper, do not specify which objects in Iran may be attacked. At the same time, according to sources, Tehran does not rule out attacks by the Israeli armed forces on objects of pro-Iranian formations in Iraq, in connections with which representatives of the Islamic Republic advised Baghdad to take precautions. So um, maybe Israel will conduct a direct strike on Iran. Maybe Israel will attack resistance forces in neighboring countries, or maybe it will be combined attack on Iran on these resistant forces. Hard to tell at this point. And the reason why Israel is postponed its attack, according to Times, is this leak of information that appeared last week about this this upcoming strike. At least that's the official. That's what officials are saying. Uh, let's hope. Let's hope international community will manage to persuade Israel's leadership to exercise restraint and not to escalate any further in a region which is already on the brink of regional war. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Risks of further escalation is obviously still extremely high. RIA Novosti is reporting that head of Palestine, by the way, Mahmoud Abbas, expressed his hopes that Palestine will join BRICS. So one may argue that Palestine has applied to become a BRICS member state. I like this idea, by the way. I like this idea. Unfortunately, Palestine is not a full member of UN yet, although vast majority of the countries are in support of it, including Russia, obviously, but US, UK, some other countries are blocking this. Uh, but they cannot block Palestine to become a partner of the BRICS and eventually to join BRICS, right? So who knows? Maybe in upcoming years, Palestine will first receive status of partner and then will join BRICS. Of course, that will be a huge deal for Palestine because BRICS member states definitely can provide significant assistance to Palestinian people, obviously. TASS news agency is reporting that Qatar Airways temporarily suspend its flights in Iraq, Iran, and Lebanon, which is, in one hand, one may say unfortunate, but unfortunate because it highlights uh, how high tensions are in the region. But on the other hand, this news can be seen as an indicator that Israel is about to conduct some large-scale strikes on these three countries, Iraq, Iran, and Lebanon. Although Lebanon is under Israeli constant strikes on daily basis already. It is reporting that 1 in 4 Americans fear post-election civil war, according to polls. Around 27% of Americans believe, US citizens believe, a civil war is likely to break out after the upcoming US presidential election, according to recent YouGov poll, which supporters of both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris expressing similar concerns. A significant number of Americans fear upcoming elections could lead to political violence, with 6% stating that a second civil war is very likely and 21% saying it is somewhat likely. Roughly equal proportions of the Trump and the Harris supporters thought the civil war was at least somewhat likely, according to their survey conducted between October 18 and 21st of October. So that's the poll numbers, and I guess none of us are surprised that significant number of U.S. citizens are thinking that things can go down as badly as even a civil war, which is not really surprising if you take in account rhetoric that comes out from both camps, right? And for example, Kamala Harris just a day before yesterday, that was, I believe, called the Trump a fascist uh, because some general, and she justified her statement because some general said earlier that Trump is a fascist. What the hell is happening in US, by the way? I mean, why these so-called politicians are so disrespectful towards each other? I mean, there is nothing left from political culture there. I mean, this is unacceptable. This is totally unacceptable when high-ranking politicians, high-profile politicians are calling each other fascists, mass murderers, genocidals, and that kind of stuff, right? Trump is constantly compared to masterman, uh, I guess by people who have no knowledge of history at all, because, I mean, Trump is definitely not a angel. Let's be clear on that. But to compare him with a mustache man that is guilty of death of tens of millions of people, that's quite something, isn't it? And when ordinary citizens of US see how these high-profile politicians are treating each other, what kind of statements are made, of course, people start to fear that these crazies may even provoke civil war in a country. So therefore, I'm not at all surprised with numbers of in that poll. Um, and by the way, as elections are getting closer and closer, um, presidential election is getting closer and closer. I'm afraid the rhetoric of this two camps will become even more extreme. Although, I mean, I don't even know how far in extremism you can go when you are calling your opponent a fascist and a mustache man. I mean, what is next to call him, right? And Trump is also not nice towards Kamala, but Trump's attacks are quite different. Uh, I mean, comparison with one of the most horrible individuals that ever lived on this planet is a whole another story, right? But in any case, presidential elections in US, especially in last 10, 15 years, clearly are showing extreme deterioration or degeneration of the political class in this country because serious people should not articulate with such. In private, you can use whatever language you want, but in public, when you are a public figure and people are watching you, and maybe some people are taking, uh, maybe for some people you are role model, you should act with more responsibility, right? And I mean, how you can operate with such a language when I don't know, man. I don't get it. I don't get it, man. I can understand tensions are high and then all kind of stuff, but to call each other fascists and that kind of stuff, that's and why am I not surprised? And there are some number of individuals in US that independently or with some assistance are trying now to conduct some political assassinations, exactly because of this extreme rhetoric, isn't it? RT is reporting that according to Elon Musk, America could go bankrupt. The US is spiraling towards bankruptcy and will quickly go bust if Washington does not stop spending so much money. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has warned. Musk was commenting on a post on X, which highlighted skyrocketing interest payments on the US government debt. We now pay nearly 1.2 trillion, 1.2 trillion, by the way, dollars per year in interest on the debt. About 25% of all taxes, tariffs, and fees collected by the US government goes to paying interests on the debt. The Wall Street Silver account posted. Musk replied, warning that if there is not a radical reduction of the government expenditures, then, just like an individual who has taken too much debt, America will become de facto bankrupt. And this is clearly a possibility, isn't it? The US Treasury announced in late July that the national debt had surpassed 35 trillion, soaring by trillion in 6 months, in previous 6 months period alone. I saw yesterday or this morning news that just in last 3 weeks, by the way, just in last 3 weeks, U.S. national debt increased for 400 over 400 billion. So Washington is spending way too much, way too much. This is true, and look at the numbers, by the way. I was kind of surprised. I did not think that U.S. already was paying just for interest trillion, but according to this source that Elon Musk commented on, Wall Street Silver's account, Washington is actually paying 1.2 trillion per year in interest, which is unbelievable number, obviously, which is unbelievable number. And if some drastic measures are not taken to, to minimize this spending, then obviously at some point, even servicing of this debt will be unsustainable. Nothing to be said about financing US itself, right? And therefore, US may go into default. It is reporting that Canada's Trudeau is given a deadline down. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing opposition from his own party. State broadcaster CBC News reported on Thursday over 20 MPs from the Trudeau's-led Liberal Party have penned a letter asking him to step down or face consequences. The lawmakers have given Trudeau a deadline of October 28 to make his decision. What's best for our party is a change of leadership, Wayne Longer, a Liberal MP, told the CBC. However, Trudeau insisted on Thursday that the party is strong and united. The Canadian leader has repeatedly said that he plans to lead the party into the next election in 2025. Well, good luck with that. Even if your own party members are against you, then probably you are done. Probably you are done. And I have no doubts that Canada will be better off without Trudeau's leadership because, uh, my dear friends, I mentioned this, I said this quite a few times before, but and I will repeat if I made it. If you would ask me like 15 years ago, for example, to name top three countries for living in this world, Canada would be in that list. If you ask me now, Canada would not be in even top 10. I would not even consider Canada as a in top of any kind, right? That's how uh, devastating, in my personal opinion, leadership of Trudeau and his party is for Canada, and especially after that, what happened during the pandemic and after pandemic, and I don't know. If I was Canadian, I would be extremely unhappy with this, with current leadership of their country. That's for sure. That's for sure, because I was truly believing, maybe I was misinformed about Canada, but I was truly believing that this country was definitely one of the top countries for living some 10, 15 years ago. And if you ask me now, no, man, no. Canada is in that place right now, in my personal opinion, for many reasons. Economical reasons, financial, political, social fabric is undergoing some disturbances there because of there so many issues. And this individual, Trudeau, is still uh, stating that he gonna lead party in 2025 elections. Just stand down. You were a disaster for Canada. Have some dignity, but anyways, let's continue, dear friends. We will find out, isn't it? We will find out in upcoming days if Trudeau will listen to his own party members. RT is also reporting that pro-EU leaders falsified ex-Soviet states referendum, according to Moscow. Moldova's government narrowly secured this week's referendum on joining the EU by cheating and suppressing voters against it. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has stated, and I guess statement of Zakharova means that Moscow is not acknowledging legitimacy of the results of that so-called referendum. I spoke about it in my previous updates. Sandu's regime, which is completely controlled by the West, try hard, try hard to cut off as many um, people from elections and the referendum. Simultaneously, there was presidential elections there, and no one received majority, so therefore there will be a second tour of presidential elections, and simultaneously there was referendum on topic of joining the EU. And Sandu's regime try hard to cut off all the people from elections that would oppose EU membership and will vote in favor of opposition. Right? So therefore, Moscow has every reason to doubt legitimacy of the results of that referendum. I mean, it was just too clear. It was just too clear. It was falsified. Presidential elections results were falsified, and the referendum results were falsified. No doubts about that. RT is reporting that Russia to seize income from frozen Western assets, according to finance minister. So Russia will respond in kind to West's use of their income generated by frozen central bank reserves. Finance Minister Anton Siluanov has stated the US and its allies have blocked an estimated 300 billion in assets belonging to Russia's central bank since their escalation of the Ukraine conflict in February 2022. The bulk of the funds, around 197 billion euros or 213 billion US dollars, are being held at the Brussels-based clearinghouse Euroclear. On Wednesday, Washington announced a decision to use the proceeds from the frozen assets to repay a multi-billion-dollar loan to Kiev. If Western countries have begun utilizing their income from the frozen Russian reserves, so we will do exactly the same. Shilwanov told reporters on Thursday, we have frozen money from their unfriendly companies and their organizations. We keep this money in our accounts in the same way and will use the income from these assets similarly, he elaborated. So that's it. That's it, by the way. I reported earlier that if and when Western ruling class will steal this frozen Russian 300 billion, well, Moscow will have no option but to confiscate, nationalize basically Western assets for very same amount, for 300 billion. And believe me, West has more than 300 billion in assets here in Russia, right? And if they will start using profits from Russian assets, then Moscow will have no option but to do the same, right? Because you cannot allow Western ruling class to act unchallenged and do whatever they want. There have to be some repercussions, and let then companies that are gonna lose profits here in Russia, let them then deal with their own elites in the West. That's it, really. So it is quite clear how Moscow is going to respond, and it's a retaliatory measure, by the way, isn't it? So nobody in this world gonna have any issue with that. Who don't want to do this, but if West is going down on that path, then well, Moscow will retaliate. And dear friends, I will end this update on this also interesting news, in my opinion, that Russians are quite optimistic about living standards, according to survey. A new survey by the Public Opinion Foundation has found that a significant number of Russians expect their standard and the quality of life in the country to improve in the near future. The study conducted by the FOM, this organization, Public Opinion Foundation, in late September and early October, polled a total of 1,500 people from across the country, asking them how they expect their personal life and the life in a country as a whole to change within the next year and within the next 3 to 5 years. According to results published on the FOM website on Thursday, 29% of respondents expected an overall improvement in the short term, while 32% did not expect any changes in the next year. In the long term, however, nearly half, or 46%, said that they believe the quality of life in the country would improve, with only 11% expecting it to deteriorate, and 80% say it would not change. So, dear friends, if you take in account that on the post-Soviet area and including in Russia, we, the people, are generally quite, you know, quite skeptics, really. Uh, that's our natural character, I guess. Not all of us, obviously, but many of us, we just take everything skeptically, or almost everything. And therefore, if you take this feature of ours, then these numbers, by the way, that 29% expects improvement of life standards for next year, and 46% expect that life will become better uh, in next 3 to 5 years. These numbers are quite good, really. These numbers are quite good because, as I said, I mean, many of us, if majority of us, actually, I will say, are, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but we are just kind of skeptics, uh, always. And even if skeptics are believing that, like 46% of skeptics are believing that in next 3 to 5 years, living standards gonna improve, then that's said quite a lot. That's it quite a lot. If you ask me personally, by the way, I have no doubts. I have no doubts that economical and financial situation in country will improve next year and improve in next 3 to 5 years. And I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that Russia is on a track of unprecedented developments, right? So I expect the Russian economy to grow year-on-year terms for decades to come, and the standard of living will improve every single year in general. In general, right? Russia has a bright future. Trust me, I have no doubts about that, and that's why many people worldwide, including from the collective West countries, by the way, uh, are planning or trying to emigrate in Russia, and there's some of them, or many of them, even already did it, and they are living in Russia happily, and they're, you know. So that's it for today's update. Relatively long video, dear friends, but it's packed with the news, isn't it? Hopefully, you will find it interesting, useful, informative, or maybe a little bit, or at least entertaining. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything. This is the only way we can at least try to influence algorithm that is becoming more and more of, at least towards my channel. And if you can, please share information about my channels on internet or in real life with your friends. And finally, if you like my work, if you like my channels and want to support, you can do it with donations or by subscribing to my Patreon page. Links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. Have a great day, wonderful upcoming weekend, and take care.